Whoops. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am Greg Flammang. We had a bit of a bonus show for you today. Notre Dame had an open practice for the media. The media saw the first four periods, wanted to talk about that. And I wanted to kind of add a show to our kind of our show lineup here, where we got Power Hour on Monday. We've got Hit and Hustle on Tuesday and Thursday. And we have some chat interaction within those shows, but we don't have a ton of chat interaction. I wanted to add a show that was basically exclusively for me to interact with people in the chat, talk about the things that you want to talk about. We can also talk about, the things that happened at practice today, some newsy type stuff. So we can talk about all those things, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like, please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so whenever it is we are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats as Notre Dame reloads for the season. Now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your purchase. Brandon Wetshaw says, he's referring to Jamie. It's going to be a solo show today. So Jamie is, I think, en route back home to Canada. He'll be on the show tomorrow, so we'll talk to Jamie about what he saw today. But he says, I read your report that Carr was in the stretch lines with the team, but was he holding the stretches with as much vigor and tenacity as others? Inquiring minds need to know. It's good comment from Brandon there. Yeah. CJ Carr was back in the stretch lines. Probably the reporting on that probably led to that happening. Who knows how big of a deal it was, but it's he's back in the stretch lines now, so that's been adjudicated. So that's all been taken care of. Jacob Paulus says Absher's practice was mildly concerning. Sullivan Absher was basically held out. That was one of the kind of the main takeaways from today's practice. Sullivan Absher was out of drills. I think he was dressed. I believe he was dressed, but he wasn't doing the drills. He wasn't really doing anything. Chris Tarek was taking the right guard reps with the first unit, at least when the first unit's out there doing their individuals and things like that. So that's something to monitor. I think that, Mike, our site owner, Mike Frank, was there at practice, and he noted in his practice report that, if there was a serious problem with him, he wouldn't be dressed. If he had some sort of concussion or anything like that, then he probably wouldn't be dressed either. So whatever it is, it didn't appear to be serious. But we'll monitor that, and we'll see what the situation is. Jamie is coming home today. Mike's going to be out there for, I think, about a week. So ISD's got you covered. Of course, Matt's always there as well. So, it'll be interesting, right? I think that when we talk about the offensive line, and, Chris Tarek has kind of taken over. I'm sorry, not Chris Tarek. Sullivan Absher's kind of taken over that starting right guard spot with Charles Jagusa breaking his arm. I think this is when it gets kind of I think it's kind of hairy when you have a guy who Sullivan Absher wasn't meant to be the starter. And if he's got to miss a little bit of practice time, right, it's not really a concern for the opener, but you do want to get those reps, right? You do want to get the reps with the first team. He's got to get that. He's got to get the chemistry down. You want that first team line to be working together as much as possible, right? So I think that, while it may not be a serious thing, any missed time on the offensive line for one of the starters is going to, have some sort of effect some way down the road, whether it's a big deal or not a big deal. It's something that we need to keep track of. So it's a good comment by Jacob Paulus there. I still hold that it was a nothing burger on Carr's stretch gate. We don't know that it was anything burger, but it's just like Jamie and I said, it was weird. We thought it was weird. We don't know that it's a big deal because we're not on the team and it doesn't matter. Marcus Freeman said it wasn't a big deal. So I take him at his word for that. It was just kind of a weird thing. Brandon Renshaw, another comment, says he will sleep better. Side note, the young offensive line depth is incredible. Rudolph has this thing rolling. Rudolph loves Will Black. Gerby Lambert making moves. Oh, there's some flexing arms emojis. O-line in a great place for 100%. I think, I think that they do have depth, right? It gets tested a little bit once someone like Sullivan Absher goes down, and now you're on to your kind of your third guy at right guard. You wonder if there was an injury, if Chris Tarek is actually the next man in at the right guard position, or if there's going to be some moving and shaking on the offensive line there. Who would ever actually come in? Would they try to move someone to get Gerby Lambert into the starting lineup at the tackle position? Maybe Emil Wagner moves over to the left. Maybe you move Anthony Knapp over to guard. Maybe you move Ashton Craig to guard, and Joe Otting becomes the center. So you're going to have to monitor that as things go on. But yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's in a good spot on the offensive line. It's good. It's a good comment. Jay Patterson, Stroman getting first-team reps at safety next to Schuler. Do you think they want to lock on one guy there or play a rotation of Stroman, Talich, Johnson? It's a great question, and I'm glad it was brought up because that was one of the main things that I wanted to talk about today. It was reported that, the first time we saw Jalen Stroman taking first-team reps at the safety position, and it was Tay Johnson and Luke Talich working together with the second team. So I was thinking about this as it kind of came out. I think this is the best case scenario for Notre Dame's team, especially their defense, because I think we know. And first of all, to answer the question, I think this is going to be a rotation in the sense that Talich and Johnson, I think, are going to play in every game. I think they will be part of the game plan. When there's game prep, they will be, it will be expected that they're going to play. So I don't worry about it from that point. I don't think they want one guy. I don't think it's going to be a situation where, like Xavier Watts is never coming off the field. I don't think it's going to be that way. I do think that there will be a rotation, but I do like the fact that Jalen Stroman is making a move to be the first-team safety next to a Don Schuler. I like the experience back there. And as good as Talich and Johnson look, Jalen Stroman has started games. He has started games in the ACC. He has started games for a good program, right? Virginia Tech is a good program, especially defensively, especially in the back end, right? So I want that battery back there, especially when you lose someone like Xavier Watts, that experience, that sort of kind of elder statesman back there. You're used to that, right? The team is used to that. I think, Drake Bowen, while he's making a move as a leader on the defense, you did lose Jack Kaiser last year. You want experience in your defense. You don't have – I'm a big fan of like an up the middle kind of the spine of the defense, right? So – and having those guys be an experienced group, whether it's, last year it was Riley Mills and Howard Cross, then it was Kaiser and a young guy in Drake Bowen, but then it was Watts back there as well. Adon Schuler is obviously is experienced this year in a way that he was not last year, so that's a good part of this. But I also think having an experienced player, an older upperclassman next to Schuler, I just think that solidifies things for the defense, and it also gives the other safeties, Tay Johnson and Luke Talich, a guy to kind of gauge themselves off of, because he's going to play in a different kind of way because of his age and because of his experience. The other part of this is I love the aesthetic that Jalen Stroman's going with. And obviously this is not a hashtag high quality analysis or anything like that, but I mean, I like he looks jacked. I like the double arm sleeves. I like the dreads. I like the visor that he's got going on. I'm a big fan of the no socks, right? The ankle socks. I'm a big fan of that. So That's a part of it too. I like how he's representing himself on the football field. But in all seriousness, I think it's a good development for Notre Dame's defense. I mean, they brought him in to start, right? I mean, that's why you bring guys in, and obviously you're open to, you're open to someone like a Don Schuler making a huge jump when they brought in Rod Hurd last year, and it's undeniable he's got to play. So I don't have a problem with that. But I like that Jalen Stroman is kind of taking the lead there, because I think that's the best thing for Notre Dame's defense. And I also think the other two guys are going to definitely play. And these things can change as the season goes on, right? We've seen that before as well. If Tay Johnson or Luke Tollett show that they are the types of players that are going to just be undeniable, they need to play more on the field, then that can happen as well. So we're obviously open to that. Brandon Renshaw says, Burris looking like a steal. Chris Sprout's good hands, great footwork. Show Mike Brown some love. Yeah, Matt Freeman talked about that today. Let me put up the video here. And I'll give me a second. I'm gonna find just the wide receivers here. So I had a clip of all of the practice, but I'm just gonna zone in on the wide receivers here, and we'll show you Plaxico Burris and guys like that. Micah Gilbert, obviously Cam Williams is someone that people are paying a lot of attention to. But yeah, I mean, Matt Freeman noted that Elijah Burris and Logan Saldate had a really good practice on over the weekend, and that was a scrimmage type situation. So that's good for them, right? Anytime players are flashing in a scrimmage type situation there, that's always what you want to hear. So we heard a lot about Elijah Burris, heard a lot about Logan Saldate, and that looks good. We're looking at Micah Gilbert here running in route. These are all, you'll notice these are all, by the way, Cam Williams. Let's go back here. I mean, look at our guy here. I mean, he's built. You say this about Cam Williams. He is built like a college wide receiver. But you'll notice here they're doing all red zone stuff. So they worked on red zone today. Matt kind of posted it would have been nice to see those guys, get the full practice, see what they're doing in the red zone, because those are usually pretty competitive periods. Here's Elijah Burris here. Love the shoes. And you got to say, you got to give credit where credit's due to Under Armour here. I was not familiar with your game from the shoe standpoint. Some of their shoes are looking really good. Elijah Burris has got those on. There was kind of a neon, even more neon than Elijah Burris was showing there. Is KK Smith. Here's Jerome Bettis Jr. There was a neon that Jaden Greathouse was sporting. I thought he looked good in his shoes. So, credit to Under Armour. They're doing a lot better with their shoe game here. But yeah, I mean, the thing for me is there's some green shoes on Jordan Faison. The thing with me with Burris is, where do those reps come from, right? And that's kind of the same for Logan Saldate. He appears to be in the slot here. I think that's pretty interesting. Where do the reps come from for these guys? It's you've got your Will Paulings, you've got your Jaden Greathouses, and you got your Malachi Fields. You see Malachi Fields there. He's looking good, right? Looks like that physical presence that Notre Dame kind of wanted. I posted the photo of him going up and getting the ball over Mark Zachary in the scrimmage, and he looks like a physical presence, right? So my question with the Elijah Burris crew and the other guys is, where do those snaps come from when you consider them specifically? I think for the offense, it's a great development, obviously, right? Because the offense needs depth of wideouts. The offense needs multiple options, because the multiple options means whoever's out on the field, when there's a lot of guys competing for spots, when there's a lot of guys competing for time, whoever makes it out on the field has played the best, right? And sometimes it's been the case in the past where the guys on the field weren't necessarily playing the best. They were the default options, right? And so Notre Dame needs to get out of that type of scenario. And I think that's what they've kind of done now. When you have guys like Elijah Burris and Logan Saldate who project to be 5, 6, 7 down the line on the depth chart, they're the ones making plays for you. That's a good sign, right? That's something you want because you know that pushes the other guys. That pushes Will Pauling. That pushes Micah Gilbert. That pushes Jordan Faison and Jaden Greathouse and Malachi Fields, right? Like it pushes those guys. That's what you want, and that's the kind of competition you want. How well they play when they get into the game, when we get into the game against Miami, when we get into the games against Texas A&M, that's when we get to see what is their actual quality, right? But you want to have options. It is what it is, and that's kind of what you're looking for, right? That's what Notre Dame's had at defensive back, right? Good defensive backs have been. I mean, look at a guy like Jaden Mickey, who's going to start at Boise State. He's made plays in practice. He's looked good in practice at various times, but he couldn't get on the field because there's guys like Leonard Moore. There's guys like Christian Gray. There's guys like Cam Hart. There's people outplaying him. Couldn't get on the field. He had to go somewhere else, right? Like that's what you're looking for. That's what we've seen at corner. That's what we want to see at wide receiver. So I think that's a good deal. Brandon Renshaw says, live chat replies, pulling up film, running the show solo. I'm monitoring for producer of the year. Fine work. Thank you. I appreciate that. It is a little bit harder to pull up stuff when you're actually producing the show and someone else isn't talking. Let's see. Jay Patterson says, do we know which players are trending to back up Moore and Gray? Well, one of those guys is 100% Carson Hobbs. Feel really good about Carson Hobbs. I think he's kind of just solidified himself as he's going to be the option there. I mean, he's going to be the third corner. He's going to be the first corner kind of off the bench. I think he's the first corner who, if someone was to replace Devontae Smith, I think he's going to be in the slot. He's been working in the slot. That's something that you notice where, Mark Zachary and Creed Thomas and Dallas Golden, they're getting those number 2 reps on the outside. I think the reason for that is because Carson Hobbs is playing inside and he's getting reps at slot. And so him being that second slot guy, I think also kind of shows like they feel good about him on the outside. They're willing to let those other guys get those outside reps because they want to rep Carson Hobbs on the inside. I would be shocked if Carson Hobbs, barring injury, wasn't that first guy off the bench. And I think that he'll also be someone who gets in the game on a regular basis. Again, part of the game plan. I think one thing that we saw last year with Christian Gray, who was, played very well at times, very, very well at times. We do think his body broke down a little bit. Now, we have noted that he's probably a little bit more physically capable of playing a full-time role, right? Jamie talked about that. He's kind of filled out a little bit, right? And so he looks a lot better physically, as you can see here in this photo. So he's looking good, right? Looks bigger. But they don't want him playing 800, 900 snaps, 700 snaps. They don't want that, right? And that was part of the problem with Ben Morrison going down last year, is that they lost. And then Jaden Mickey transferred out of the program like a week before, or like maybe 2-3 weeks before Ben Morrison was lost for the season with the hip. So that was part of the casualty, is someone like Christian Gray was consistently playing every snap in a game. Leonard Moore was consistently playing every snap in a game, right? So I think they're trending, right? Or I think Carson Hobbs is trending. I think that we need to find out a little bit more about the Creed Thomas, Mark Zachary, Dallas Golden trio. We need to find out a little bit more about those guys. I know they've been repping with the 2s, but there also aren't a ton of options, right? So it's kind of like wide receiver in the sense that, they're repping 2s, but if it's not them, well, then who, right? If they're not repping 2s, then who's repping with the 2s, right? They don't have a ton of options there. I do think that they've been playmakers and they've been doing things right now because it's such a good secondary. And because the standards in the secondary are so high, it is difficult to kind of play to the level that you're looking for right off the bat. But I think the fact that they've got Dallas Golden on punt return, right? They're repping him at punt return. I think that's kind of notable in the sense that like they're not afraid to put something else on his plate. even though, even though he's not solidified with the second team or anything like that, the fact that there's 3 of them, someone's going to find a way to be a good option in the secondary there for Notre Dame at corner. So I feel good about that. I feel good about that. Rob Wozniak says, I'm tired of work getting in the way of my hit and hustle viewings. Don't they know it's August already? You got to figure that out, man. You got to talk to your boss. You got to talk to people. There's something to be said for, getting on it. And I think the best way to do it is get your boss and tell them, like, hey, you can hit and hustle as well. Are you hitting and hustling? Are you doing everything you can to support the people at ISD? You can do that by hitting the like, hitting subscribe, hit the notification bell. Doing all those things. Share the show with your friends. Tyler Borgman says, was there a report on ISD for members regarding the stadium scrimmage? I don't recall seeing one. I don't believe there was either. I think Matt threw out a tidbit about, he had heard that Elijah Burris and Logan Saldate had a good scrimmage. I think that was kind of the deal. Beyond that, I don't believe that there was anything out there. I think Notre Dame's being pretty tight-lipped about it as well. Marcus Freeman, that's his MO. He wants things kept in-house, and obviously we understand that and we support that. When there's intel to give out, Matt will do that because he always does. I personally don't have the information, right? That sometimes I know things and I don't say it because I'm not supposed to, but this is not one of those times. I have not heard anything other than what he put out on Twitter, which was that Elijah Burris and Logan Saldate had a good scrimmage. Brendan Renshaw is asking how the softball season ended. I may have missed it. It was actually baseball. My son, it was my son's baseball season. They got eliminated in the to Hawaii on the last kind of day. It was an elimination game for both teams. Hawaii eliminated them. We lost 10-8. Gave up an 8-5 lead in the bottom of the 5th. So, but he had a great time. It was a great experience for us. He's 8 years old. It's not highest stakes or whatever, but the kids feel the pressure and that sort of thing. So, he loved it and he had a great time, and it was a great summer of baseball. What better way to spend your summer than baseball with your son? And he's pitching, he's catching, he's playing center field. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. So that's the deal. CFB Hertz says there's been precious little info on kickers. Do we need to monitor? I don't believe we need to monitor. First of all, we definitely don't need to monitor the punter. I can't think of his name. Someone put his name on the thing. Can't think of his name. We don't need to monitor the punter because we just don't. Like he's going to be fine, and I'm not worried about. I heard he had a Rendell. That's what it is. Geez, good gracious. Live TV. You forget these things sometimes. Rendell. He had a bad. I guess he had a bad first practice or whatever. I don't know. And then here's Noah Burnett. I'm not worried about it. Look, again, in Marty Biaggi, I kind of trust on this. Like he was a kicker. He'll get it figured out, in my opinion. If he doesn't, then he doesn't. We'll see how it goes. And the other part too is Notre Dame figured out how to win games when Mitch Jeter went through. I don't want to say the yips because he was hurt, but he went through a period where he was 3 of 11. You could not trust him to kick a field goal ever for a period of time, and then he became Mr. Clutch in the playoffs. So. I just think Marty Biaggi is going to figure it out. The thing that I'm kind of curious about is what is Marty Biaggi cooking up from a, this is obviously something we don't know. And if we do find out, we certainly cannot report it because that would be bad. What's he cooking up from a fake standpoint? I mean, he's got something every game. It seems like he's got a new thing they're working on. He's got something up his sleeve, and that's going to be exciting. And the thing is I think the thing that people don't realize about special teams is, a lot of the time people say things like, Oh, well, they knew the fake was coming. It's like, yeah, but you don't know what fake is coming. Like, you don't know the way, because when you break it down, a fake, whether it's a fake field goal, fake punt, whatever it might be, it's a play, right? It's a football play. It's a football play from scrimmage where there's blocking, there's assignments, there's execution, there's all those things. It kind of doesn't matter if the defense knows that you're faking it, because they don't know what the play is. They've never seen it on tape. So they don't know how to prepare for it. The fact that they know it's happening doesn't mean that they can prepare. That's the thing with Marty Biagi, is you can go into a game and the special teams coordinator will say during the week, they are going to fake it on us. You need to watch this. You need to watch that, right? The surprise element is often there, but also, even if it's not, you haven't put anything on tape yet. Every play, every fake that Marty Biagi runs, he's running for the first time. That's what makes it unique. Like, and credit to Marcus Freeman for putting this on Marty Biagi and him being able to say, like, hey, go run the fake that you're doing, right? Because a lot of coaches don't want to do that. They want to play it safe. And Marcus Freeman is saying, like, no, let's take a chance here. I mean, he did it against USC, did it against Georgia, right? They had something up their sleeve in that game. Obviously, they had something up their sleeve against Ohio State that they didn't execute, but they didn't execute it. The play wasn't a failure against Ohio State because Ohio State sniffed it out. It was a failure because it was a bad pass and the ball was put on the ground. That's what it was. So that's the thing that I'm curious about with Marty Biagi, and something we're never going to find out. What's the fake situation? What has he got cooked up his sleeve? Because he's got something. He's got something. Jacob Paulus says, I think Denbrock's experience with a young Ritter at Cincinnati will help with our quarterback at Miami. He kept it easy on Ritter, didn't ask him to do too much, let the defense and run game win the day. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting how Mike Denbrock handles the quarterbacks, whoever it is, in the first week. It's on the road. You've got a good pass rush with Miami. And what do? Right? Do they lean on the running game? Do they get exotic with formations? Do they keep it kind of simple formation wise? Are they more of a play action team? Are they more of an under center team? Like, that's going to be super interesting to me about how Denbrock approaches week one. And this is a good point. I mean, experience with the young Ritter, right? I mean, his experience, period. Denbrock's been around college football for a long time. He kind of knows how to handle young players, young quarterbacks, young offenses. And while the offense at large is experienced, the quarterback is not. Doesn't matter who it is. It's going to be fascinating. I couldn't venture to guess. And it's one of those things, like, I couldn't, because I haven't seen them. I need to see how they're practicing. I need to see how they're handling different situations, how they're handling goal line, how they're handling, the play action game, the RPO game, how they handling going under center, right? What are they good at? I have no idea on these things. So it's hard for me to extrapolate what they'll do. I think it's very easy for anyone to kind of say, hey, like, give the ball to Jeremiah Love 25 times, whether it's in the running game, whether it's in the passing game, both of those things, whatever it might be. Give the ball to Jadarian Price 10 times, 15 times, 12 times, whatever it is. Notre Dame has these strengths they should be able to lean on quite a bit. I think if Miami's playing man, see, the good thing about these quarterbacks, especially with like CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie, CJ Carr specifically, and Mike noted today, they're running indie stuff against air. And he said, in his opinion, CJ Carr was the more accurate quarterback. How much zone does Miami want to run? Because the thing that a team might do if they want to heat up the quarterback, well, you're giving one-on-one opportunities to someone like Malachi Fields or Jaden Greathouse. You make it easier on the quarterback in that case, because then there's no read. It's just about your arm talent and being able to make the throw. That is a strength of CJ Carr. That is a strength of Kenny Minchie, right? That is what they're good at, and that's what Notre Dame kind of wants to do. They don't want them sitting back there and going 1, 2, 3, 4 across the field. They don't want that. Like, that's where Notre Dame, it gets kind of hairy. Where Notre Dame wants is like, hey, when we're running the ball, we're running it. And when we're throwing, it's one step, two step. I have an easy read. I know where I'm going with the ball. It's a jump ball to Malachi Fields. It's a jump ball to Jaden Greathouse. It's a jump ball to Eli Raridan. Let my guys make a play, right? That's where I think it kind of benefits, the quarterbacks benefit the offense a little bit more than Riley Leonard last year, because Notre Dame didn't want to do that with Riley Leonard. They didn't really trust him, especially in the beginning, to do those things. But we did see it, when they hit the kind of the back shoulder to Bo Collins. So that's something to monitor, these kind of chess games in the way that these things happen. We're talking about money, Mitch. Oh, CFB Hertz says, serious question time. Do you think Freeman will be more conservative on fourth downs this year without Leonard to lean on? I don't. I mean, it kind of depends on so many things. How does he feel about his defense? What's the opponent? Will they go wildcat with Jeremiah Love in those situations, just snap it straight to Love and turn him into the guy, right? And I don't think there was any sort of in those situations there was any sort of illusion that Notre Dame wasn't running the ball with Leonard, right? So taking away that, you put Jeremiah Love back there, it's like 100% going to be a run. But again, the type of run, there's a variation to these things that you can do. Well, they work on Jeremiah Love running zone read, right? Where Jadonian Price comes across the field and Jeremiah Love can read it out and give it to him, or he can run up the field. You do have to respect it, right? You can't just ignore the fact that Jadonian Price is running across the field. You can't just ignore the fact that someone like Jordan Faison is running across the field, right? Like, to me, if I'm a coach, you have to go with your first principles of, I want to be aggressive and I want to try and keep the ball, right? And that is what Marcus Freeman is kind of like, that's his mindset. And to me, like, that's how I prefer it, because in my opinion, having the ball is everything. The best defense is when you have the ball. You don't have to play a ton of defense when you have the ball. Now, Notre Dame's going to have a good defense, so that kind of puts a little wrinkle on that, because it's like you can trust them. But at the same time, think of the times that Notre Dame went for it on fourth down, and think of how infrequently that ended up burning them. That's the lesson, in my opinion, that Marcus Freeman is going to take away from this. It's like, man, we went for it, and when we didn't get it, we stopped them, right? Is your defense that good, right? Is your defense continue to be that good? Like, in my opinion, a weaker defense means maybe we punt it because we don't want to give them a short field because we're going to give up points, right? So there's a lot that plays into it. This might be wishful thinking on my part, but I think that Marcus Freeman, his preference is to keep the ball and go for it and be aggressive. I think he'll find a way to keep that preference. It's my opinion. I don't want to, I don't have any reason to think one way or the other. It's just kind of how I see it. And, again, it could be wishful thinking. It could be, me just kind of hoping that it's that way because that's my preference. But, that's kind of how I see it. I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate on this too much. Michael Hahn says, aren't you as a defense more susceptible to the run when you run zone? I believe it's the opposite, actually, if you want to, because you want to play too high in that situation. So against teams that are running the ball, you want to run too high, right? Because that drops the corners, right? So it drops the corners and they can come in and run support. Generally speaking, if a team is playing, if a team's running the ball a ton on you, you play zone, so everyone's looking inside. To me, it's hard to play man against Notre Dame a bunch when, like, especially last year when you have Riley Leonard as your quarterback because he can get away. They might try it a little bit more with CJ Carr and Kenny Minchie because they don't have that same running threat. Like, they can run, and I think they're both mobile, but I don't think they can damage you like Riley Leonard could. Riley Leonard could damage a defense in a way that these guys don't. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that. Jacob Paulus says, if any of you guys have free time, watch some highlights, full games of Cincinnati in 2018 season. It was Ritter's first year starting with Denbrock at the helm. Since he had a good D and run game, sound familiar. Yeah. It's definitely not Mike Denbrock's first rodeo on that. CFP Hurt says, I think zone is probably better for minimizing explosive runs, but leaves you more open to giving up 4 to 7 every handoff. Yeah. Could be the case. Could be the case. Jacob Paulus says, has to be situational though too, going 4 on 4th. Yeah, I mean, it just depends where Notre Dame is on the field and time of game situation, what the score is, that sort of thing. That all kind of plays into it. Speaking of playing, you can play pickleball if you're in the Mishawaka area with H2 Pickleball, founded by alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, a top 10 pickleball pro. That's Will Howells, top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to the Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free. The members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game with medal rounds played on campus. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockney Athletics Fund to support our student athletes. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com. That's Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195. Let me make sure I got that phone number right, because I believe I said it wrong initially. Let me make sure. Yeah, 574-339-5195. So to join the league, contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league, and be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive, Mishawaka. Does anyone play pickleball in the chat? Any of you guys playing pickleball? It's big out here. It's big in California. CFB Hertz says, Miami's defense was a disaster last year. Despite having a bunch of talent, there's always a chance they could have a big turnaround this year, but I have to see it first. Yeah. I think, there's so much, game one. It's a game one thing. They're going to be jacked up. They're going to play really. It's kind of like to me, it's kind of like that Florida State game in 2021 where Florida State wasn't very good the year before, and it's just that they're just going to be fired up for it. It's a huge game, and it could set up their whole season. It's going to be close. They are going to be up for it. It doesn't have to go to overtime or anything like that. You just know it's going to be difficult, and their defense could fall apart at the end of the year. They are going to. There's no way they're going to be any more prepared than they can be than in this game. They will be ready for Notre Dame. That's just the deal. Andy Cochran says the new Miami secondary hasn't played it down together. They can be fooled. That's a good point. And Mike Denbrock, he knows how to take advantage of these situations. The flip side of that is they haven't played together. Mike Denbrock doesn't really know the weaknesses of them yet, but I think he'll figure it out. CFB Hertz says, never played pickleball, but there's a new sports complex going up near my workplace that will have pickleball. Yeah, it's big. It's a fun game where you don't have to run around a ton, but you can be competitive and you can play with your friends, that sort of thing. So that's good news. So we're back on the tip of the quarterback competition, and I think the thing that people. Well, I guess I won't speak about other people. I'll just speak for myself. I think for me, I'm really taking in on how good both of these guys are and how well they're both playing. Because to me, it doesn't matter who starts. Because A, I can't form an opinion because I'm not watching them. And B, because of that, it's just kind of an irrelevant topic as to like who I think it should be and what fits best. And I like a lot of people have their preferences, and I don't really know why, because I think there's reason for people to be excited about both of them, and you should be excited about both of them. So to me, there's the conversation around the quarterbacks is a little strange because you don't watch them, and neither do I. And I don't like to base my opinions on things that I hear. I like to base them on things that I see. And since we're not seeing them, we can't really do that. So I don't want to say trust the coaches. I don't have a choice. It's not about trusting them. It's just about like they are watching them. They're going to make the best decision. My opinion is that it kind of doesn't matter who starts against Miami. It only matters how well that quarterback plays, because like, look, we saw with all offensive line last year, like Notre Dame went with Sam Pendleton at left guard. I don't want to say it ended up being a mistake, but he did. I don't believe that he played the way that Joe Rudolph thought he was going to play. And so therefore he just got replaced in the lineup, and Rocco ended up being the starter there, you know? So things can change, right? The way you think a quarterback is going to react to a game doesn't necessarily mean that he is going to react that way. And you have to change on the fly, right? I mean, we kind of saw this with Ian Book and Brandon Wimbush in 2018. We saw this with Dane Christ and Tommy Rees in 2011. You know, I mean, we've seen this before. It's not like, even the 2021 season, Jack Cohn, and I think this was more of a way of how Tommy Rees was calling the offense than it was Jack Cohn problem. But like that didn't go the way Notre Dame expected, you know, against Toledo and then Wisconsin and then, and then the start of Virginia Tech where Jack Cohn got benched. He got put on the bench, you know. And so I think that our Purdue as well, like those games did not go the way they thought. And I think there's this tendency to think like, oh, Notre Dame chose a quarterback, that's who it has to be for the rest of the season. That's not true. To me, I want to know about both of these guys. How are both of them performing? Because neither of them has played a ton of football recently. I mean, what if someone gets hurt and someone's got to come in for 2-3 games or whatever it might be? You know, so I'm kind of it's like the Rob Lowe meme where he's wearing the NFL hat at the football game. Like to me, I'm wearing a Notre Dame quarterback's hat. Like I want to know both of them. I hope they're both killing it, because Notre Dame needs to put out a good product on offense, regardless who the quarterback is. And I believe they're both going to be playing this year, either by injury or just by the fact that there's someone isn't playing as well. You know, I just think that's from a percentage chance standpoint, I believe it's pretty high. So I don't really care who wins the job. I want to know how both of them are doing. I want to know how the one who isn't winning the job is doing, right? Is it just because CJ Carr is killing it? Is it just because Kenny Minchie's killing it? Right. I think both of them need to be good. And I hope they're both kind of locked into that. Right. Either of them could be called on to start games. And so to me, the question of who it is doesn't really matter. Is how are they playing? Right. So when we're talking about interceptions, well, shoot, CJ Carr's throwing interceptions. Kenny Minchie's throwing interceptions. That can't continue, you know, because then you have a problem. You don't want anyone. You want those interceptions to be cut down, right? I don't want to get into why those picks are thrown because I'm not there, but I'm just saying that these guys, they both got to be good. It's not a either or to me. Jacob Paula says, isn't it odd that the majority of the fan base won't be upset with whoever wins the quarterback job? I don't know if majority is. I kind of, my sense is the fans want it to be Carr. I mean, that's my sense. I mean, every time I say something good about Kenny Minchie on Twitter, people are yelling at me. You know, like the spring game discourse was very odd on that respect. Excuse me, need a little bit of Fresca. So that was, you know, it was. I think people want Carr, and it's fine, right? I think it was funny that Mike Denbrock, or I think it was Gino Gaduli, got asked about the why not Kenny thing from message boards. We're bringing message boards chatter to questions in the press conference. Why are we doing that? We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. CFB Hurt says, I would be happy with either quarterback winning the job, but I have to say a small part of me is pulling for Minchie simply because every national show out there is assuming Carr will be the winner. And what I will say about that is it's not preference. There's been chatter on background that Carr was kind of leading, and it was expected. That's why everyone's kind of like, well, it's going to be Carr. It's going to be Carr. It's going to be Carr. And part of that is because Carr has been performing well, in the times that they've been together, whether it be spring, whether it be summer workouts and that sort of thing. I mean, he's been playing well. It's not because people are, biased in favor of him or anything like that. It's just like he's performed well in those workouts. I've always said, and Jamie's always said, well, you gotta do it in camp. Like it has to happen in camp. Summer workouts are not camp. That's not when it gets decided. So it's we just gotta see on that. Spencer Chmielewski. Sorry, Spencer, if I got that wrong. Thank you for your attendance. Hit the subscribe. Hit the like. Notre Dame has an elite O-line. Only downside is there is little to no depth with Jagusa down and Coogan and Spindler gone. They will hold up if they don't get injured. I don't think that's true, Spencer. I think they do have depth. I think Sullivan Absher, they've liked Sullivan Absher. They've liked him. I'm not certain that if Rocco Spindler was still on the team, Sullivan Absher would not win the right guard job. I don't know that. I don't know that wouldn't happen. I know they've really liked Sullivan Absher. I know that I think they like the size. I think they like the movement. I think they like the upside there. So I don't know. I think if Absher was to go down for an extended period of time, like during the season, that's concerning, right? But like anyone who's down to their third team right guard that's a problem, right? Like that's not great. So you get to that point, but I think people expect Sullivan Absher to play well. I certainly do. I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play really well. Michael Hahn with the comment here. There's depth. It's just not experience, but no team has experienced depth at line anymore with the portal. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, but Sullivan Absher's played. He's played in games. And so that's true. I mean, look at that. He is no less experienced than Notre Dame went into Texas A&M with. He's more experienced than Notre Dame went into Texas A&M. Was more experienced than Sam Pendleton was. More experiencst than Ashton Craig. Well, not Ashton Craig. Actually, started games. I'm certainly more experienced than Anthony Knapp, right? More experienced than Emil Wagner was. So, it is what it is. CFB Hertz says, very little to go off of so far, but Minchie seems like he's a better runner on the outside compared to Leonard, who mostly ran between tackles. I don't know. From a running standpoint, Leonard, man, he's special, man. That run against Georgia where he got to corner. See, that's a run. That's an example of like I don't know that Kenny Minchie has that run specifically in his bag where it's meant up the middle, breaks outside against Georgia, gets the corner against Georgia, and then leaps over a first-round pick safety for a first down. Like that is not in the bag of Kenny Minchie, which is no slight against Minchie. I just think that Leonard was a special player. All right, let's go again, Spencer. Let's go again with another comment. Dual threat quarterbacks fit Denbrock's system better. People forget, but Ritter was good because he could easily evade the group of 5 defenses he faced. All else equal, Minchie is better fit. Maybe. You can't, but what I will say is I don't want to discount the athleticism of CJ Carr. I've compared his athleticism to Rick Meyer back in the day. For some reason, I just felt like he was the best comp for that. And Rick Meyer was out there running option. He was scrambling for first downs. He was running for 50 yards at times, right? I think honestly believe he could be somewhat similar to Deshaun Kaiser from a running standpoint. I think he can scoot a little bit. I would say Kenny Minchie is kind of an Everett Golson type. So I'll go Golson, Minchie, Rick Meyer, Carr, all mobile. all mobile. But to the point, I don't know that either are as good as Desmond Ridder. So that's something to be to monitor. Alfredo Rodriguez. I want Carr to become an ND great so we can forever hold that over Michigan fans' heads. That's fair. 100% fair, Alfredo. Thank you for being here. I don't remember you ever being in the chat. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Appreciate you our attendance. Very fair. Yes, from CFB Hertz. Michael Hahn says the Notre Dame haters and you fans, University of Miami's fans, think this game is going to be a replay of 2017. Like Mike said on the boards, the outside world thinks last year was a fluke. People will learn this is sustainable with Freeman. Yeah, I think that is to be seen. But I lean towards that. I think that people don't understand that this team, the mindset of this team, what Marcus Freeman has brought to the culture of this team. I think that if those fans believe that this team and Marcus Freeman's mindset and what he's brought, if they believe Notre Dame is going to fold in this situation, that is not a good assumption. That is not a good thought, and I don't believe that's going to happen. I do believe if Miami is to actually win the game, not just make it close, but to actually win the game, they had better plan to be better than Notre Dame. I don't believe they are going to intimidate Notre Dame in this game the way that team was. That's true. I just think that's the case. Jacob Paulus says this season is the prove it season. Yeah. Maybe that's how the fans look at it. Maybe that's how I don't know that that's how the team looks at it though, to be honest. Like I think they are just out there trying to, like Marcus Freeman said, like he's very good at messaging. He's very good at putting a message out there. And I think that his mindset is that we just want to continue to elevate the program. So that's the deal. CFB Hertz says Carr didn't do much running in high school, did he? He definitely showed good evasiveness in the pocket, but I don't remember seeing him tuck it and run much in his highlights. I believe it was in there. I wish I could go back and look at it. I believe there was a good amount of running from him in those highlights. To me, and this is a pretty good kind of indicator on his part. I thought there were times when they played the better teams when his offensive line was not able to sustain their blocks against some of these better teams. And man, that kid, he hung in there and he made throws that he needed to make in order to give his team a chance. And that ability, I mean, that experience could prove to be very helpful because look, regardless of Riley Leonard, regardless of anything else, sack avoidance is one of the biggest kind of skills that any quarterback can have in not just college football, but pro football at any level. Because, you extend plays and you make plays when the defense is essentially winning. So, yeah, Jacob Paulus says Carr's O-line was not good. Certainly not against the better programs, right? People look at Carr's, kind of postseason records, and it was, he didn't have a chance in some of these postseason games with the way that they were blocking, which is no shade on them. It's just sometimes you get to that level of competition and it doesn't go the way you want. I think we can end it there. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. I'm going to make these kind of like a regular thing where we're just sitting around and chatting with the fans and talking about your feelings about how things are going, what you're thinking about, giving you more of a voice in our content. We want to do that because, again, I think sometimes when we're doing Power Hour, we're doing Hit and Hustle, we're doing those things, we're interacting. I'm interacting with Jamie. Mike is interacting with Jamie. We're not totally getting into the viewer comments. And sometimes I see the comments on the show and I think, that'd be a great question to answer if we weren't talking about something else. So I want to give you guys a chance to do that. Come on the show, get into the chat, interact with me, just talking Notre Dame football. I think we're going to do this throughout the offseason, probably do it throughout the regular season as well. I think we're kind of trying to go, like, once the season starts, we might be having like an everyday kind of model where it's Monday through Sunday we're putting out content, whether it's Monday Power Hour, Tuesday, Thursday Hit and Hustle. Might have a Wednesday show with the opponent, previewing the opponent. A Friday show where this will kind of be it, where you're talking about the previous week, talking about the upcoming week, kind of like that happy hour I was doing. Saturday post-game show, Sunday morning after recap show. So we might be, once the season starts, we might be 7 days a week here. So thank you again for everyone for tuning in. If you want to catch our content, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll be back at, I think, noon Eastern time. Jamie will be back home. Talk about what he saw today, talk some more Notre Dame football, get into the wide receivers a little bit more because I know he wanted to watch them. We're going to talk about them, talk about Cam Williams, talk about Elijah Burris, talk about Logan Saldate, Malachi Fields, and things like that. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We will talk to you tomorrow. Keep hitting and hustling.